Hello, welcome. In this video we're going to talk about 4 steps to get out of a slump. I am currently on step 3. I am still in a bit of a slump myself, so I thought this would be a prime time for me to make this video because I'm actually feeling all of the things we're going to be talking about. This video is going to start off in black and white and I'm going to do my makeup as I'm talking about the first 2 steps. The last week hasn't been that great. It's not been great at all. Just really feeling like I wanted to escape, like I don't want to live in the reality that I'm in, finding fictional worlds more appealing than the real world, whether that's TV shows or movies, books to a lesser extent, and I need to get out of that really because it's quite a dangerous place to be. I'm in recovery from addiction and I used my addiction to escape reality as well, to escape responsibilities, so the fact that I'm having this behaviour even without the addiction is a bit problematic, so we need to get out of it. It's been like a combination of things, but one thing that's been playing in my head quite recently is that John Mulaney quote from his special where he goes, "I don't know if you've been following the news."
I don't know if you've been following the news, but I've been keeping my ears open, and it seems like everyone, everywhere, is super mad about everything all the time.
That quote has been kind of going around my head because I'm like, yeah, it's not great at the moment, but here we are. Let's go through 4 steps to get out of a slump. This will be helpful if you are on step 4 or if you are still in step 1 or 2 or like me on step 3. Hopefully this will help you. Let's go. So step 1 is about feeling everything. And I mentioned I'm in recovery. It's difficult to feel everything, particularly when you feel a lot. And the last few days I have been feeling a lot. But the only way out is through, as the saying goes. I have needed to feel all of this, to process it, to acknowledge it, and then as we get on to step 3 and 4, to work out exactly why I'm feeling like this, what caused this slump, which has lasted I think 5 days. It's been quite intense. I've not really felt like eating, cooking. I've not really left the house. I went to the dentist, that sucked, but I went because I'd booked the appointment. That tells me something about discipline or external motivation that could be quite helpful going forward. It's not been great. I have lots of work to do, but I've not really been doing as much as maybe I would have hoped to have been doing. I think that's okay. I said it's been 5 days, so that's not a long time. It's not like this has been going on for weeks. I think that would be more worrying, and I am starting to feel like I can come out of it now, so that's also reassuring. But this point of step 1, I think we can have an impulse to run away because there's this like wellness culture or this idea that you always have to be improving or getting better. We want like a complete journey, right? You don't want someone to say, I've been stuck feeling like this for a long time, because that feels uncomfortable. We don't like to deal with that, but if you talk to anyone with a chronic illness or a recurring illness, which is episodic and comes with its peaks and troughs, like they will tell you like this is unpredictable, it's not necessarily connected to anything that's happening. It can be, in which case then you, as we will talk about, you can learn what that is and try and work out ways to deal with that. But there isn't always this nice complete story of, oh, I felt bad and now I'm feeling better. And I think we need to acknowledge that, and then you can sit with what you're feeling and feel everything and just surrender to whatever you're feeling. Even if you're like, oh, but I have this routine that I normally do. This is what I'm saying to myself. Like I have goals which I'm trying to achieve every day. I've got my habit tracker and I've got whatever else I'm trying to do. And that's great. But there are times where we're not going to feel up to doing those things, and I think allowing yourself space to just feel whatever you're feeling, whether you're feeling tired or burnt out or stressed, depressed, angry, like in denial, whatever it is, to allow yourself space to feel that instead of just being like, oh, I need to rush onto my routine. Because if we're not allowing ourselves to feel it, we can't process it, we can't learn from it. Maybe this is just an excuse for me to just have completely fallen out of everything that I've been trying to do. But I do think it's important to deal with what you're feeling instead of trying to push it away. And I know it's awkward or uncomfortable. And I'm not saying like don't use any of your coping mechanisms or your self-soothing things that you know help. Absolutely engage in them as long as they're not damaging. And don't wallow either, but just allowing myself to really sit in the feeling and feel it, I think is an important step. And I don't want to get into like discipline or routines specifically, but I think there will also come a time where you need to not force yourself back into your routine, but like now I'm realizing, oh, the time is coming now for me to I'm doing this without a mirror. The time is coming for me to try and work my way out of this, and we'll see how I get on. If I try things and it's not working, then there's no pressure on me to carry on. But I think it's about knowing yourself knowing how you feel, knowing when you can or can't push yourself, like knowing, is this me being lazy right now and could I be doing more, or do I need to still be in this like little cocoon of sadness? I keep having these episodes and I don't really know what to call them. It's sort of like a shutdown where I'm like, I just can't deal with anything anymore. I just need to like be by myself for days. I don't know what it is. Now I'm feeling like, oh okay, I could come out of this now, which is nice, which moves us on to step 2. Now step 1 and 2 in this whole framework that we're talking about here, they can be going on concurrently, and I don't think this has to be like necessarily a conscious process. I mean, it will be now that I'm talking about it, you might be aware of it as you're going through it. But I think this can also just be helpful in looking back and reframing past struggles you've had with this kind of losing motivation, feeling in a rut, feeling in a slump. As I said, part 1 and 2 can go on like simultaneously. Oh gosh, how did I pronounce that? That's an American pronunciation, isn't it? Simultaneously? I've forgotten how to speak. So step 1 is feeling everything and allowing yourself the space to feel everything. And step 2 is processing everything. So now this is not just feeling whatever you're feeling, but it's trying to make sense of it, trying to understand where that came from. Why did I suddenly have this need to shut down and have a shutdown day? Shutdown week? This stage it might feel too soon to question, in which case leave it till step 3. All of these things can be interchangeable, but now step 2 is the time where you're thinking what happened here, and sometimes there can be a very clear trigger to why you suddenly lost motivation or you're suddenly feeling in a slump, you felt the need to isolate or withdraw. There might be a very obvious reason for that, in which case you can think, okay, what was it about this event or this person or this thing that happened? Is this preventable? What can I do in the future? Or the more difficult thing is where there isn't any identifiable reason why. It won't be a conscious thing, but there will be some reason why all of a sudden you shut down. I don't know, I'm guessing that that's why I'm speaking for myself here as well. I'm guessing there's something that happened that just tipped you over the edge and you were like, you know what, I can't deal anymore. But now in step 2 is the time to process that. One really helpful thing if you want a more structured, like I'm just quite happy, not ruminating, but you know, sitting and thinking about this and thinking about why, thinking about motivations and what happened. This can be helpful to write about as well. If you like journaling, you can ask yourself a few questions and write about this. I've written down some questions here. These are some questions to ask yourself. So did anything trigger this particular episode? What is the overwhelming emotion that I'm feeling in this episode? So for me, it has been quite a confusing time. I'm not really sure. I kind of don't know where to go. I'm kind of having to retreat back into the one day at a time, sort of I can't control the future. That has been reassuring but also painful. In Buddhism they talk about how suffering comes from the fact that you lack acceptance, and that's also something they talk about in recovery. If you're unhappy with a particular situation, if something's causing you pain or annoying you, bothering you, it's because you don't have enough acceptance around that thing. I think that's just a valid point for life in general. If you're thinking about what's the overwhelming emotion that I'm feeling, if it's for me I'm feeling pain, is that because I am refusing to accept something which is fact and which I can't get away from? Answer is yes. Another thing to ask yourself, what emotion am I trying to escape? Or am I trying to escape? For me, the answer is yes, I know I'm trying to escape. And as I said, for me, that's something to watch out for because that's a behaviour that was present in my addiction as well. So I need to be very aware of what I'm trying to run away from and why, and I need to keep an eye on it because I don't want to let that feeling get any bigger. Even just thinking about this or journaling about this, asking yourself what emotion am I trying to escape, putting words to your feelings can be very helpful, particularly if you're feeling a lot or you're feeling something very complicated with like different triggers or different things that have caused it. Can be helpful to write about it because you're forced to express yourself in a coherent way. Especially if you're writing like line by line, then there will be some kind of through line, some kind of cohesion. Even if it's rambly, you will be able to find a pattern in it. Or you can just do like a mind map, put in the middle like what am I thinking, and then all of the things going off. That's less cohesive, but that's still going to give you lots of things to work on and lots of pointers as to why you're feeling this way. What emotion are you trying to escape? Another helpful question to ask yourself is, if you are looking to escape, where are you getting that escapism? This will probably be obvious to you. For me, it's been, as I said, in fictional worlds, but also what are you getting from the escapism? So this is also helpful in moving on to the next stage because you will realise, you will feel, oh, I'm not getting the right escapism anymore, or I don't need this to the same extent. I've come to terms with the way I'm feeling. I've accepted the situation in whatever way I can, and now I'm able to move on. We are now in colour. Feeling a bit more normal now. The third step is to be gentle and compassionate with yourself. So you've felt everything, whether that's over a period of days or a week, hopefully not more, but I don't know your situation. You've processed everything, either thinking about it, trying to work out what caused this, what happened. It's a difficult process, so don't rush it, but also don't let yourself wallow or dwell too much in the pain of whatever you're feeling. The goal here is to try and move forward at the right pace for you. Then the third step, be gentle with yourself. Again, this goes across all of them, but here we're thinking about specifically being compassionate and being gentle with yourself as you move forward and try to get back into some kind of routine, the routine that you've fallen out of as you've been in your slump rut. Here it is important to take action to try and get back to what you were like before in terms of the habits that you had. And I have done a whole video about acting the way you want to feel, so I will link that for you up here. But it's just about taking action. You may not have all of the motivation yet, but you will act first and then the motivation will follow. You may not feel at this stage in this step 3 of how to get out of a slump, you may not feel yet like you want to tidy your room or empty the bin or make yourself a really wholesome meal. Whatever it is that feels like a big thing for you to do at the moment. You may not want to do that, but this is the time in this framework, this 4-step framework that we're talking about, this is the time where you can think about gently pushing yourself to do these things if you feel ready to, because you need to take action and then the feeling will follow later, and then you find yourself back in a virtuous cycle of taking the action that you know will help. So I know that cooking nice tofu scramble for dinner will make me feel better, and you take the action, you make it, you feel good then because you've made it, you eat it, oh yummy tofu scramble, and then you're back into a virtuous loop, whereas I've fallen into now for the last few days been more in a vicious cycle, you know, a negative cycle where each action feeds into each other negatively. We can reverse that, but that requires taking action. So step 3 is about gently trying to get back to what you were like before, so like making your bed, eating properly again, trying to have some sort of sleep schedule, drinking some tea, drinking some water, getting dressed, putting on some makeup if you feel up to it, sorting out your hair, whatever this looks like for you, showering, washing your face, doing a face mask, going for a short walk, chilling with your dog, reading, anything that you've been neglecting that you normally enjoy doing. This is the time to try and do those things again to get out of your slump. And it's important at this stage to really watch your internal monologue. So you need to be really gentle about this, because depending on how long you've been in your shutdown days, depending how long you've been in that, you may be feeling guilt, you may be beating yourself up, you may have been doing that the whole time. I hope not, it's horrible, isn't it? That's why you need to really feel everything and acknowledge it, because then you're not leaving space for that inner critic to be like, oh, you're such a waste of space, you're such a loser. But really in this stage where you're taking action and trying to get back to some kind of normality, it's really important to watch the way that you're speaking to yourself. All of these things can come up as you're taking action. And I find when I'm acting, sometimes that leaves more space in my head to think, which seems counterintuitive. But when I'm like having my shutdown days and I'm not doing anything and there's no pressure, I'm not feeling that inner critic as much, because I'm just sort of immersed in whatever feeling has caused the shutdown. So it's when I'm taking action that it feels more like that inner critic can come to the forefront, because then there's space, because I'm feeling less bad. Just be really aware at this stage that that can be something that comes up, and you can do the same thing that we've done in steps 1 and 2. Acknowledge it. You don't have to listen to what that inner critic is saying. You can just be like, well, look, I'm doing my best here. That's enough, and I'm taking action. What more do you want from me? Leave me alone. Which leads us nicely onto step 4 of how to get out of a slump, and that is to remain aware. I was going to say remain vigilant, but that seems too extreme. I think if you have gone through this process as you're in your slump, you at this stage want to try and not necessarily prevent another slump from happening. We all know it's inevitable for there to be ups and downs. It's just, I guess, like how extreme is the next down going to be? I seem to have these things every few months where I'm just like, I need to shut down, retreat from the world for a while. I am fairly confident that this will happen again. It's just, I guess, a question of trying to work out, is there any warning sign? So in step 4, if we're remaining aware, as I try and solidify my habits, build on my step 3 of being kind and gentle whilst I try and take action, is there anything that I can start noticing going forward that might hint to me that something bad might be brewing in my head that will cause another shutdown? Sometimes there is nothing you can do and it just happens, or it's something completely out of your control, so you can't control your reaction to it. This is just a helpful state to be in, having this awareness, because it means that hopefully you'll be able to recognize a future episode as it is happening, before it's happening. Sometimes I think you just need to feel this stuff. Like, I'm obviously getting to a point of overwhelm where I just need to shut down and retreat. I don't think it's particularly healthy though, so it is something that I want to be aware of. There is so much at play here. Just speaking for me, there's denial, there's escapism, there's fantasy, uncertainty, not wanting any responsibilities for a little bit, which is where I guess the escapism comes in. There's a lot of big things happening when I'm in this slump. None of those things are either easy to resolve or are solvable. I know these things will crop up again. It's just about trying to be aware and trying to make sure that even if I do feel this way in the future, it will be in a different way, so like a different iteration of this experience, and hopefully then over time, as the same thing happens and I try different things or I try and notice different things, different strategies, whatever, process things, hopefully they will become less and less. Who can say? I don't know. I think we all know that these times come and go. There are good times, bad times, but when you're in that dark, intense place, it can feel like it's never ending. So hopefully this video has helped reassure you that it does get better and you don't need to beat yourself up. I've done some videos about how to validate yourself. That can also be helpful in this whole process, so I will leave some videos on the screen for you to check out if you so choose. God bless, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.